Seconds as it does its thing. Go live. Hello. Hello, everyone. Yes. Um. Hi. It is very late. I am just not a night person, but this is one of our new times. We are now streaming on Sundays at noon, on some days of the week, and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So welcome. This will be a really fun episode. This is actually an episode I've been really excited about. I'm going to do a little bit of technology because Facebook is being a pain in the butt.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, if it's not one thing, it's the other. Because like before we were having issues with Twitch just deciding to just not function, and now Facebook has decided not to function.
Lovely.
Hopefully, I have tech people coming to fix this. Why you do?
Gotta love technology problems.
Facebook, why? Why Facebook, why? I don't know how to fix it. Okay, well, hopefully technology will figure itself out. Please send help. Please send help. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crosstalk Live. I am Chibi Raincloud, and it's an exciting episode. This is actually an episode I've been really excited about for a while. Also, I have my absolutely wonderful Sakura Elric here with me. This is a super fun episode for the both of us because we love skits. That's kind of our jam. So I am a Pacific Northwest cosplayer. I've been cosplaying for a very long time. I do a little bit of everything, but being on stage and doing skits and writing skits is one of my favorite things ever. It's what got me into this crazy world of competition. Was like, I want to be on stage. Let's write something. The two of us have, Sakura's done more than I have, but the two of us together, we have won 2 different performance awards. Yep. And so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what we went through, the things that we've learned over the years of skit building that we've done, and give you guys just some advice on walk-ons and mostly skits, but to kind of get you guys in the groove of what to look for when starting out and getting into this world. Now, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Sakura Elric. I've been cosplaying since 2008, competing since 2014 for craftsmanship, and doing skits since 2016, I believe it is. I've entered nearly 20 cosplay contests and won over a dozen awards in both craftsmanship and performance. My most recent award is Best in Show for Nagisa Hazuki at SummerCon 2023. Skit-wise, I believe it was Annie Revo 2018 was our last skit that we won anything for.
Because then a pandemic happened. So yes.
Well, yeah. So
yeah, and my last ones were I won Best in Show at KFX in Canada.
Oh, and we're I'm cosplaying Longa from Skate. And Chibi, that way. Chibi is my Reki.
Yes, we panicked and ran out of time. Who do we wear? So, I mean, Reki's probably my most comfortable costume. He's one of my new favorites. Like, if I don't know what to wear, just Reki. He's so easy. Hello, Cool Gamer. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I know this is a weird time, so people might be confused, but I appreciate you coming in. So I guess we'll dive in because this is a pretty heavy topic and there's a lot to cover.
So well, it's not heavy, it's fun, and there's a lot to
there's just a lot to consider and a lot to discuss. So I think first we should start with breaking down terminology a little bit. And to keep in mind that the two of us are Pacific Northwest cosplayers.
Yes.
So a lot of
Canadian.
The longest Canadian. So most of our experiences come from the Pacific Northwest when it comes to competition. That means it can use different terminologies from if you're from a different place. So we're going to kind of discuss how that looks so you can kind of know what to look for.
Yeah, so I know in Arizona and other places in the US, and actually Alberta as well, they use the terminology cosplay masquerade to mean the entire cosplay contest.
Mm-hmm.
In the Pacific Northwest, BC, and some of the more southern coastal states, it's cosplay contest for the entire thing. And then cosplay masquerade is for things that are just a walk-on without any craftsmanship judging.
Right. So that is something to keep in mind is if you're looking for terminology. And if you're ever confused at any point about any terminology in any kind of writing at any convention, just reach out to your cosplay coordinator. They could explain it to you in better details. Why is my lighting? Sorry, it's driving me crazy. Oh, that's why. The wrong light was on. I'm tired, guys. I'm a morning person if you haven't noticed. But yeah, so if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, ask. There is definitely no harm in asking, especially because a lot of competitions, it's kind of by percentage of how much you've built. And like if a masquerade is simply just the walk-on portion without any of the competitive like judging part, then anybody's welcome. I know sometimes the skits and masquerades kind of get lumped into one sum, and then sometimes they're just single walk-ons. So it's definitely something to make sure you know the definition of what your convention is using that particular word for. With that going forward, we are going to use this terminology. So we're going to call skits, and masquerade we're going to refer to as walk-ons because that's what we are used to.
Yeah, it can also be called walk-ons though, and like when you're doing craftsmanship judging, it's accompanied by a walk-on, so terminology.
Exactly, but the more you know. So if you're ever confused and you don't know exactly which one you're falling into, just reach out to your cosplay coordinator. They know what to do. I think the first thing to discuss is when you're going into these kinds of things, even if it's just for fun, get an idea of why are you doing this? Is it just for fun? Are you just going to have a great time with your friends? Are you doing it to get some extra experience? Maybe you're going to get some feedback from judges. So when you're deciding if you're doing a skit, kind of get an idea of what like the goal you're reaching for is. Because I think, for example, like the two of us, when we do skits, usually we're aiming for best in show. We spend a lot of time on our costumes and our performance, and we kind of want to merge them together. And so when we put stuff together, we want to put our best foot forward and like we are always shooting for the stars, always.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are some competitions where best in show is only for people who do skit and craftsmanship, but some do it that you can have a walk-on and craftsmanship and still get best in show. But again, check your rules.
Always check those rules. So yeah, like I said, if you're just doing it for fun, if you just like writing scripts and stuff, because that's how I started out. I just like writing scripts and I like being on stage. I was that theater kid that missed it desperately. So this was my way of getting out that extra energy. And so I really liked that part of it. But now it's one of those things. Comments. Hi, Jess. And hi, Lily. Lily says, Soccer's wig is so fun, but I bet the hair gets annoying.
A little bit.
I mean, as a cosplayer, we just get used to it.
Yeah. I've had worse.
Yeah, so get an idea, because one of the things that I learned from Weeru, one of the many times that we've had discussions and panels together, is he's like, what are you aiming for? And then like focus your energy into that. Because if you're just really focused on wanting to win like best drama or maybe best comedy, then you want to put your energy into those kinds of things, which technically best in show can be any category. But for example, SoccerCon is like our big competition that we do every year in our area. And it's broken to like walk-ons, and then the skits are broken into comedy, musical, drama.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
But also to clarify on that, because SoccerCon changed the way they're organizing things as of 2019. So they used to have a separate skit contest and a separate cosplay contest. Now they have those two things together. So like back then, Chibi and I could actually perform together in a skit because we are different. Like I'm master and Chibi is still intermediate, but working her way up.
Working on it.
But that's also something to consider, because we've done 2 Yeah, we've done one, two. We've done at least a skit. 2 skits.
So
After the pandemic,
we've done the D&D skit. We've
I
done
think.
Ramshu. We've done
Well,
and then Show by Rock. We've done 3
yeah.
at SoccerCon.
So the ROM. No, goodness, it is late. Brains are hard tonight. No, we did a D&D skit, and we specifically chose to just do skit because we were also in like different costumes. Because Chibi was doing Lodos War with Thermo. I was doing Pokemon. So, like, that kind of thing, if you're mixing different series, you generally can't do craftsmanship together in that respect. But
And with craftsmanship too, again, your rules at your convention might be different, so always ask. But we were discussing that SoccerCon has changed the rules a lot. So before, even though we were in different categories, we could still compete in our separate categories as a skit, and that was considered our walk-on. Now it's broken up where we have to do our own thing in our own category, or I will have to be competing in Masters because it wouldn't be fair if Sakura was competing in the Journeyman.
yeah.
So another one of those, like, always check the rules because some cons allow it, some cons don't. If you're a competitor who does it a lot and then your friend is new to the scene but really wants to get into it, doing skits and stuff is a great way to warm people up, get your friends really into it, especially if you have this awesome plan and you need like 5 people, because it's a lot less pressure on them because you don't have to enter the judging part. You can just go in for a skit.
Mm-hmm. Now, and speaking of choreography, that also applies to walk-ons, not skits.
Definitely.
Because, like,
I think that's a good segue. Let's talk about walk-ons.
Yeah. In the wise words of A.K. Liru, if you can make your walk-on into a skit or as skit-like as possible, do it. But what he's meaning in that respect is make it as flashy as you can while staying in character and make sure you show off your costume. So a lot of rules will say, like, walk on stage, pose one place, stay there, walk to another place, pose, walk to another place, pose, and get off.
Yeah, and here's our examples of KFX because these are lovely. Thank you, Starlit Wolf, for these photos. I love them. So basically what Sakura is trying to say is, like, yes, you have that model 3-person pose, but you should be showing off your entire costume and character within those poses. Mm-hmm. So these are my absolute favorites. These are super fun. I had a costume. I was doing Twisted Wonderland Deuce. So it was like a very active, it's a dancing scene in the game. So I wanted it to be very flowy, very dancey. So yes, I went like, so first pose, I did this kind of like prayer pose. And then I moved on to like this dancey pose. And then I wanted to show off my back because that entire piece is the back piece. And so I really made it a very dancey piece. And this is the one I went best in show in. And then Sakura, if you want to describe what you were thinking with Longa.
Oh, I wanted to ride my skateboard across the stage, but I decided I'd probably fall off, so I didn't. So what I did is I walked and I posed and like kind of looked at the audience and then posed with the skateboard under a singular foot, so I didn't fall. And then the last pose, I think I looked over my shoulder, but like Longa's not a very expressive character necessarily, so for me that was in character. But like just because they say you should do this, you can do, like, if you want to actually do like a dance for your walk on, and if they allow custom music, go for it, but just make sure that the coordinator is aware that's what you're doing. And some cons are sticklers, stick to the thing, but most of them, as long as you stay within your time limit, you can do more or less anything as long as you are following the rules.
And that's my firm believer. Story time. So when I first started competing and really getting into it, I did. It would have been considered more of a masquerade because there was no skits. It was just all walk-ons, and I don't think any of us were judged. So it was a very small convention, but I was really into it. And this was my first time I did Arabian Nagisa from Free Iwatobi Swim Club, which is a pretty big build. And so it was one of my first times, and so I kind of did the typical like went up and did like a cute pose, went up and did like a cute pose, but it wasn't necessarily super into character. The person who came after me, though, she won third place, which is where I would like. That was what, if it wasn't for her, I would have gotten third place. But I am not. I am not upset about the win, like losing to her, because she was fantastic. Because she had a beautiful costume. We were about the same level of craftsmanship. We both had a lot of like fun little details. She was doing a One Piece character. I don't remember the character's name. But when she went on stage, she freaking owned it. She was loud. Her expressions and her body language screamed One Piece. Like, even if you didn't know anything about the show, you could assume she was a One Piece character. And she just took the whole stage over. And I will never forget that moment, because that's why she won, is because her stage presence was just that much further above mine, that she deserved the win, even though our craftsmanship was basically side by side the same level. And sometimes that's what it is. Like, the judges might have two people that they're like, oh, I really like the craftsmanship here, and I really like how clean this costume is. But then once they watch the walk on, that's what makes like the final decision for them.
No, that's actually more common than you'd think for deciding factor. Because, like, generally, if we're taking into consideration craftsmanship judging, the judges already have an idea of who they want to win specific awards, but walk-ons can actually change that overall. So
it definitely makes a really big difference. Not always, because like some cons, they don't really care about the walk-ons. It's kind of more for the crowd. But a lot of the times, the judges themselves will at least keep those things in mind. I know for myself, that's like a big thing I look for whenever I'm a judge. So if you ever want to impress me, if I ever judge you, like, that walk-on, that's what gets me, because like, I love a good walk-on. I just can't help myself. So that will always, for me, be part of it, because I love seeing people really embody characters. And like, cosplay isn't always about embodying characters, but if you're there to wow the crowd, that's kind of part of the full deal package. And with walk-ons, I would say try to use that whole time. I feel like this is one of the biggest pitfalls for people who are newer to walk-ons, is they'll walk, pose, walk, pose, walk, pose, and then it's like 15 seconds, which really doesn't give you enough time, or the crowd enough time, to really get wowed by you. But if you get like a 30-second, it's usually what, a 20 to 35-second walk on, take the entire time.
Depending, 45 seconds is a sweet spot. It does depend, though, because if cons are allowing you custom audio, they'll generally do 30 seconds to 45 seconds. And it's always easier to do a walk-on if you have custom audio. But if you don't, do your best with what you got playing in the background.
And one of the things I will remind people of, because I think this is another rule or a detail that gets lost, if a con is asking for like music, you can have your own audio or something, make sure you know exactly what they're asking for. If they're specifically asking for like this clip or this much of the song, some cons won't do, they don't have time nor the technology to mix or cut your songs for you. So even getting just a cheap free like audio thing to help cut your song down, having that already prepped for your walk on or for your skit is going to save you a lot of hardships when you get to the con, if they're like, oh, we can only play the beginning of the song because we have no way of skipping through the song, or we can't play it because it's too long, or something like that. Like, if they're looking for a specific time, just cut it yourself and send them the audio, because then it's that peace of mind. You know for sure it's the exact part you want in the song, and you know it's going to fit with their system if they're asking for it.
Yeah, and I've found the best free program is Audacity. I have mixed many skits using Audacity, and I have had no problems with like audio quality because they export like really, really nice. And
I'm
also on
technology
the
dumb and I figured it out. So
and on the same vein of make sure you send the correct time. Also make sure it is the correct format. Because a lot of cons will ask for MP3 and they will not play it if it's not MP3. So just make sure to read the rules and do what they're asking for.
So we got some comments. Lillian, cosplayers are secretly wizards. Oh yes, we are. Last year, yes. So it was last soccer con, not this soccer con. Last soccer con we had dice. That was our
2022.
Yeah, because this year we didn't compete. So
Nope.
The last time we competed.
We tried, but
we did.
They filled up within like 7 minutes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're into a really big convention that you know has a high attendance, keep an eye on those like wanna sign-ups, because some sign-ups for conventions will be that day. For smaller conventions, this is perfectly normal to have like that day styled signups. But for anything bigger, they're probably online and the likelihood of them filling up are very high. Jess, I can't stand hair in my face, human or synthetic. I'm in that boat. I it drives me crazy. I have way too many eye patch characters for that. Like I just and then Lily, I'm easily wowable. Well, that's good. So do you want to show your walk on? I think your walk on is like a really good example.
Sure. Okay. This is longer than most walk-ons because SoccerCon used to do 1.5 minutes when they had a separate skit contest because they had more time.
Which was nice.
But I believe the audio is shared, so let's go.
So this is a really good example of like a super dynamic skit. It's really fun. Like you're aiming for best in show even if you're solo. Also, like, make sure you know your stage. That's not when they had a catwalk, isn't it?
Yep. I think this was the last year they let us use the
catwalk. If there is a catwalk, like, freaking use it. I've used the catwalk.
And this was 2017.
Yeah, baby soccer, Lily. Yes. But you can, like, it's hard to tell in this kind of video, but that audio is really clean.
Because, like, even though this was technically just a walk-on, I'm like, I have 1 minute 30. I can put on a small skit.
But that's the type of thing, like, especially for, like, SoccerCon, I feel like does really push for, like, a good... When they ask for, like, skits and walk-on, this is the type of thing that they're asking for, which is why they used to be so long. Now they don't have enough time for that. But, like, when I was writing my walk-on for this last year, SoccerCon, I was writing it as a small skit. I took whatever time I had, and I tried to turn it into a skit. That was my whole goal. And so whenever I'm trying to do a walk-on, I try to do that. If not possible, or if you're just doing a walk-on where you're basically like shoot into the 3-turn, like pose 3-turn, you can still really own it. Example, last Uwu, there was a cater from Twisted Wonderland, and I keep talking about them because I love this skit, because this character is like really flamboyant and lovable, and he's always has his phone out and he's always taking selfies. And the cater did that on stage, like went out and did a little pose and then pulled out their phone. That was the phone case of the character. And then like turned and took a picture with the people, like was going live with the crowd behind them and just totally played into the character. They did their 3-point turn and then they were off stage. And I was like, that right there, I will never forget that walk on, because that was amazing. I'm also a sucker for cater, but like that, it just left an impression, and the entire crowd just went crazy over it because they invited the crowd to be in with them. And so like making even those like small walk-ons catch people's attention is definitely a good way to go.
And also, some conventions actually allow solo skits. So SoccerCon specifically allows solos, which are actually a minute 30. So like what I just showed would qualify as a single person skit.
Yeah.
But skits generally are capped at about 3 minutes, depending on your convention. Sometimes 3:30, but they generally won't go any longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good time to segue into skits then. Let's just like really get into, I think, the choreography. Because with skits, there's kind of this, I feel like the way skits go wrong is people don't keep an audience who doesn't know the story in mind. So one of the most important things that when you're writing a skit is assume that the judges and the audience don't know anything about your character or the anime or story or video game that it comes from. Like, you want to make sure if you're writing something, it's relatable to everybody. Because it's very, very, very rarely you'll ever see a skit win that's like very directed at the series. And if you don't know what's going on, the judges don't know what's going on. And so that's usually where skits fall apart really fast.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's definitely a hard balance in a lot of times, because like one anime that I have had trouble finding a understandable skit from an outside perspective is Puella Magi Madoka Magica. It is a very intense series and has a really amazing bunch of plot points that can make great skits. The only issue is they're very contextual to the show. So there's a lot of Madoka skits that if you know the show, they are amazing. They are great. But if you don't, it's rather confusing, and it's very, very rare to see those types of skits win awards and whatnot because they're not universally understandable. So it's finding the balance between keeping things in character, but also keeping it universal. And like something that we've done for a couple of our skits is actually created like a narration and then the skit. And we found that that actually works really well because, okay, we don't have one of our best skits because it got taken off online. And of course, we relied on that online video to watch it, and now it's gone, and it's lost forever, and it's really sad.
So another word of warning, if you use something that might be eventually copyrighted, get a copy yourself because it will be taken off the internet.
Yeah. No, because the skit I'm referring to is one of our ROM shoe skits, because we're Show by Rock Trash. And it was basically a Romeo Juliet, but two guys kind of thing. And we use like, these are the characters, this is the situation. And then we went into them talking about, you know, their different kingdoms, basically. And then the skit basically ended. Yeah, so somewhere in the skit we danced, somewhere in the skit we were sad, and then somewhere in that's the end of the skit, we both died. And that's from my walk-on of the same year. But that's like legitimately all we have except the audio, which I couldn't find because it's lost in a computer drive somewhere. But like, like, if somebody uploaded something, ask them, can you send me this, please? More often than not, they will.
But yeah, so keeping a really like coherent story where this started. So we had Romeo and Juliet. We had this idea that we wanted this like tragic ending with these two kingdoms that were going to fall in love. And that was our basis. So we just stuck with that and we ran with it. One of the really, I'd say like the best advice I've ever gotten ever with skit building is take your script and give it to somebody who knows nothing about the show. Whether it's a parent, a family member, a friend who doesn't really know what's going on, hand them the skit. Ask them, do you know what's going on? Who are the main characters? It like, is this a cohesive story? Like, getting somebody else who's completely removed from the situation to try to like regurgitate back the story is a really good, I guess, base to figure out if you have a good story. Because if somebody can read it and be like, oh, I don't know the show, but like this character and this character fight, it sounds like they've been fighting for a long time, but then something happens and then this character saves the other character and then they become best friends. Like, cohesive story. We have a beginning, a middle, and end. And that's kind of what you're trying to do in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's one of like the biggest things now is like, if I'm writing a script, I'm going to try to keep in mind a handful of people that I can huck it at to try and get that feedback to see if my judges don't know what's going on, are they going to be able to like discern what our story is? I think one of my favorite skits we've ever done, but it was a very like, it didn't get anything, and it was we picked the wrong location and we picked the wrong time to do the skit, I think, perfectly. And also it was a Dungeons and Dragons based skit, which we did for SoccerCon, which is an anime convention. So problem number one, choose your crowd. And the D&D people in the crowd obviously loved it. We had a lot of just like cliches of rolling ones and rolling 20s. We had some like silly like D&D stuff, but it went over the judges' heads because none of them had played D&D and they didn't understand what was going on. And that lost us a lot of points. Is we made the skit under the assumption that everybody knew what we were talking about without having to describe or explain anything. And unfortunately, that skit didn't win anything. It was a really fun skit. I had a blast. It's one of my favorites still. But because it was just such a niche thing and we didn't have a well enough explanation, I think that was what our downfall was.
Yeah. No, and that just goes to show that like, workshop your skit, because also our downfall that year was, I think like 3 days before deadline, we're like, we need to submit a script. And so we wrote something, and while it was fun for us, like in that situation, we just wanted to go and have fun and do a skit with friends. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we're like, whatever. And we had a fun time, and obviously some people enjoyed it. So like, that's a win for us, because afterwards people were like, we like your skit. And it's like, then good. Like, that's enough for us because someone just enjoyed it. And yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really fun year because we went in with like no expectations. We were just like, this is just for fun. Yep. So that was really fun. I would have to say, like, for me at least, I don't consider myself a funny person. So the comedy brackets are usually the hardest skits for me. Our skits are best drama because I just find drama is so much easier to write. It's really easy to make somebody go, my heart hurts. I don't know who these characters are, but my heart hurts for them. And so like, drama for me is just a much easier category to write in. And not all cons have like categories to help give you an idea of where skits are. Sometimes you could just write a skit and it's fine. We're just so used to SoccerCon that we're used to being like, okay, are we doing something funny? Are we doing something serious? Like, this will help us set the mood.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because I've heard time and time again, a lot of cosplayers are like, oh, the funny skits are the ones like the easiest to write because you can make like universal jokes and stuff. And it's like, we're totally opposite, because it's like, I don't know, drama kids.
I guess so. Yeah, no, I've always very much struggled with comedy. I've never won anything in like a comedy. So it's just not my jam. With that, I think, because we were talking a little bit about audio, but I want to really stress how important audio is. Especially for like, even looking, for example, at like the World Cosplay Summit, when people are doing stuff for that, like your audio has to be the highest quality you can possibly try to muster. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect with your audio, but even at the lower levels, you should be striving to have a clean enough audio that is easy to understand. And there are a lot of really good tricks online for people to like look up to like make your audio slightly clearer, to clean up the background of audio pieces. Don't make your music too loud is a big one. I see a lot of skits where it's a fantastic skit, but that music, like somebody didn't balance the music. And so you can't really hear the voices over that music.
On that specifically, it matters how you are listening to your skit. I usually do skit mixing with headphones on, because with headphones, it's easier to hear if somebody has like a hard consonants and the mic has like picked up I don't know what it's called, but like I guess like feedback, or like what when you go like hard breaths basically is what I'm meaning, or like tongue clicking and stuff. I can hear that better doing it with headphones. But after I've mixed with headphones and gotten my audio levels what I think is correct, because your skit is going to be played over loudspeakers, try it with speakers. I don't know how many times I have had to change the audio levels to make the music. Usually I actually need it slightly louder because it doesn't come through as well. But that is something definitely to keep in mind, because not all speakers are created equal too, because if some of them have like louder bass, or they decide to balance things differently at the convention, sometimes there's not much you can do there. But setting yourself up for success by testing and listening to your own audio is a game changer.
And like you can make cheats, because when we were recording for the D&D skit, there was 6 of us doing audio. There was 5 of us doing audio. And
Yeah,
so all of us we all had different cameras, we all had different mics, we all had different systems. And so all of us were like sounded completely different from each other. But one of the tricks we tried to use is we ended up just taking like EVA pieces and created a kind of like basically like a mic catch behind our mic, because it helped our voice from bouncing. And it did help level things out a little bit. So poor Sakura didn't have to do as much mixing.
Still had to do a lot of work. But on that vein as well, like if you have people across multiple states, countries, provinces, houses, everybody's going to have a different mic. So creating like the box behind it, or I know you can get like those like egg container kind of, basically
like the crepe containers.
Well, no, that's what it looks like. It's the foam backing that like they have in like actual recording studios. The price of that has come down quite a bit, and you can get I think it's about $12-13 for like 2 sheets. And just having that padding somewhere close to where you're recording is very, very helpful. Because a lot of times the issues that I encounter are people have different room acoustics. Because like I have a lot of posters and stuff, so my room doesn't have as much echo. But I've received audio from people who don't have a lot of that stuff, and it's very, very different. So it's
if you can't record all in one room together, then maybe setting up a similar space where you guys can use will definitely help in the long run.
And another thing with audio is there may be situations that you can't really do much about that. But with Audacity, there are ways to like equalize tone and like change the reverb. So that can also help. I know there was one skit that I mixed that I got lucky/unlucky, because it was a voice actor / ADR director who was judging the skits. And I was like, I found that out at the con, and I'm like, this is great, because what I had done is there was 4 different people voicing in the skit. That wasn't the problem. we didn't have a male in the skit and we needed a male. So what I did is I ripped audio clips from the anime and put them into the skit. And it worked perfectly, actually. But afterwards, the judge came up and she was like, "Who did the mixing?" And I'm like, "That was me." And I am ready to just like get reamed because I knew there were issues in that audio. Her comment, "I'm very impressed that you ripped I think it was Joel. The skit was Show by Rock, and it was Strawberry Heart that I had ripped from the show, and it's like it was just very lucky, but like that was something that I'm like, oh, I need to get better at audio mixing because now I feel silly because a voice actor's listening to what I've done.
But I mean, like, that's the kind of crazy things that we end up in these situations. Like, we don't ask for this; it just happens. So, like, yeah, putting a little extra love into your audio can make a difference. It also makes a clearer story. A lot of stories can just be told verbally and still really get the point across. So, as a storyteller and a dungeon master, for me, like, getting that emotion and the story through voice across is a huge winner for me. Example. So last couple of World Cosplay Summit winners like are incredible, but a couple of the skits for me fell flat because I didn't feel that their emotions matched their voice, which matched the skit, which is like, it's a very hard thing to do. So I never judge people on that. But a couple of years ago, one of the video divisions during this is still like, to this day, this is my favorite skit I've ever seen to my life. It was during the pandemic, so it would have been what, 2019's video division winner?
No, the pandemic was 2020.
I'm so tired. It was a Final Fantasy skit, and it won the video division. That the emotion that this person put into it just broke my heart. The skit itself, the video was incredible because it was one cohesive story. If you had played the game like I have and hurt, because it was the boys' Final Fantasy, it was such a beautiful story because it was told from like the main character's point of view of like the adventure that they went on and the regrets that he had during the adventure. So it was just like a narration over the story, and the emotion he had matched the character so beautifully. And it was even English wasn't even his first language, and he did absolutely lovely. So like I encourage people to just do their thing because it's amazing. It doesn't matter. And then people, because Sakura has never played the game before or watched it, and Sakura was even like, oh, that hurt on a different level. And it's like, that's the type of thing that you want to aim for when doing a skit. If you're trying to get to the point of like World Cosplay Summit and stuff like that. If you're just doing it for fun, just write your own script, have fun with it. But if you are like aiming to try and do higher level stage production, trying to get something that's going to really get anybody, whether they've watched the show or not, is what you're aiming for. You want to get something that's emotional and invokes emotions out of people, whether they know the show or not. No, that is still like, this will probably go down in history as like my number one skit. The emotion in his voice, I just can't get over it.
No, it was pretty amazing.
But with the audio side, I think the choreography part is also a very hard thing to pull off. Some people are lucky and they make skits with their friends that are locals, and that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. But unfortunately,
that's always doable.
all of my favorite humans are in different states and different countries. So a lot of the times when we're working on skits, we have to basically the only time we get to physically do practice is at the convention. And you have to make time for it. And you have to make time for it, and you have to make time for it. And it sucks cutting into your con day. We really like to try to use Thursday night or like Friday evening if there's no plans. That doesn't usually happen. But we will use that time to find a quiet place, usually within the convention center, and just practice. And we will record the skit like of ourselves and then watch it back so we can kind of see what the crowd is saying. Because this is such an important part, is just making sure everybody is in the right place at the right time, which is not always doable. Like if you can practice and you get to do it when you're together, that's awesome. You can block off a space. Me and Sakura have done so many stages that we pretty much know about the space we need no matter where we go for like our skits. But like keep in mind the length of your stage and how much you're working with, because if anybody's a stage kid, you'll know a lot of it's cut off if you're in different places in the room, like sitting. So you just want to make sure you're using like the main stage and then some of the background. But I think it's so important to use that extra time together to try to do the choreography. And like, if you are distant, going through the script together, I think is also a really good idea. You can always do a comm call, a video chat, and go through the audio a couple of times. Do the reactions together using the audio. So you guys just know what your body language cues are going to be.
No, and also coming up with this is what we're doing before you actually like get to the convention, because we have a skit to show, and this specific one, we had a vague idea of what it was going to look like, because we'd of course already mixed the audio, and we were like, okay, so during this time with this part of the song, this is what we're gonna do. But we could not practice until the Thursday before the con, and what ended up happening is I have never done a fighting skit in my life until that moment. And
so Sakura was in charge of the audio and all of the fancy stuff. I focused completely on the choreography because I'm a LARPer. I used to be a big LARPer. So I like sword fighting, and I know how to make a sword fight look pretty without like hurting people. So yeah, I'll just pull that up real quick. Yes. We're gonna do that, and then Inception.
Screenception.
Okay. Oh, go back.
For many years, the land of Shingon and the kingdom of Amatalas have waged war, battling for territory and the glory of winning the other kingdom's treasure. Often, the rulers of both lands would battle in secret, spending many hours together to settle the score.
Today marks our final battle, Demon Prince Shu.
How many battles has it been over the years, Demon King Ram? Oh, many more than I can count.
This will be our last, a battle to the death.
I'll indulge, but prepare to be conquered.
I lost my crown!
You're more intense than usual. Something got into you today.
Well, hasn't this gotten boring to you? All this senseless fighting. You're the only thing that has excited me for the past 100 years. And I wanted to communicate that through our battle. Do you understand?
Boring? Has my fighting not been enough for you?
It's the war I'm bored of, not you.
Fighting is all we've ever had. How can you say such things about our passionate battles?
King Ram, I have my reasons. You're the only thing, the only one that's ever gotten my heart pounding like this. Do you get my feelings now?
My heart pounds as well.
So what do you say? How will you respond to my feelings?
I guess the only reason I fight now is to see you if I have to be truthful.
You'll accept?
Silly Prince. Why don't we continue this discussion somewhere more private?
So then, what would happen to our kingdoms? Would they combine? Who would be king?
I guess we'll have to battle and see.
Catch me if you can, Demon King.
I quite like this game.
I never get tired of watching that skit.
I know, right? And another thing, if you start falling apart on stage and things are falling off and them not supposed to, just keep going. All of the skits I've ever won, I have things have fallen off my costume, but I've still won. So.
No, our outfits were not supposed to fall apart. And like we had gone through that skit probably about 7 times in costume beforehand. So we knew what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And then of course on stage it decided to fall apart. But like it looked actually really good because we were fighting. So it was good, but like inwardly I was panicking because I'm like, I'm losing pieces. Oh, there goes my cape at the end. Okay, cool. But no matter what happens, like you just have to keep going.
Just like, roll with it. I honestly think it's good luck. I've lost both of our ROM shoes. I've lost my crown both times, and both of them we won. So now for me, that's like if I drop my crown, that's it. We're winning. And no, those pieces, like we fought 7 different times, and those pieces didn't fall off. So it ended up working out how it should, and it looked really good in the end. So we were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we ended up getting best skit for that one, but we sacrificed a lot of time during the convention for that. Because like we missed
had no way to practice.
Yeah, because AR has their costume contest later in the day, which so in the morning we practiced out of costume, they got into costume, had judging, and then practiced a bunch more. So it's like when you are doing skits and stuff and you're doing it more seriously, not just for fun, you've got to take that into account.
Especially if you're long distance, especially if you don't get to meet up all the time, especially if you don't have that time, you need to have that time. Because a lot of skits, you can tell when the people didn't practice completely, or if they don't trust each other because they didn't do it, or like somebody takes a step and it's the wrong maneuver and everyone goes, those kinds of things are going to happen. But all good drama kids, you can ask them, like the rule of thumb is yes. If something happens, yes. If something falls off, yes. You just keep going. And honestly, 99% of the time, the judges have no idea. They had no idea my crown was like not supposed to come off. They had no idea when I stepped at you and I like clipped your cloak off. It looked intentional. They had no idea. You're the only one who knows that happened. So like really.
Well, and everybody watching the stream now.
Yeah. So honestly, that was super fun, but make sure you're putting in those times. For the swordsmanship choreography was really tough. Like we had to take a lot of, because basically the way I did that is I listened to the audio and the music timing, and I kind of like panned out how I wanted each hit to be. If you want to be super extra, you'll see this in the World Cosplay Summit. The hits will actually like chink, chunk, chink. So like you have to know exactly when your swords are connecting or your weapons are connecting because you're adding in those sound effects. We do not do that. That is fine. That's like
because we couldn't choreograph it beforehand because I didn't know what we were doing.
Exactly. And so, but it was really hard. And like some conventions, I think this one we had to have our script and like we had to have like what the words were and what the choreography was going to kind of be. So we had already had an idea.
No.
Was that just SoccerCon then?
That was SoccerCon. Yeah. AR, the last time I did that.
Some cons will ask you to have all of this done before the convention. But anyway, so I took Sakura and we started off really slow, and I just kind of like slow mode showed where like the hits are going to be with timing. And then we practiced speeding it up slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. But it's basically like a dance. Like we're not just up there willy-nilly swinging our swords. It was very much, I'm swinging this way, you swing this way. I swing this way, you swing this way. I'm stabbing, you're dodging. And so you just want to make sure when you're doing like intense action scenes that it is like it's made like a dance. You know exactly what step everything is going to end up being. And you have plenty of time to practice this so you don't accidentally hurt each other.
And talking about movement as well, even when you have skits that have a lot of talking, like you saw in that one, even when we were like just talking to each other, we were still moving around and it was still really dynamic. Even if you're just having a conversation, having something for the audience's eyes to focus on, and you want to be like directing their eyesight to like the person who is talking, but you also don't want to stay in one place for too long, lest it gets boring for the audience very quickly. So you have to have a good balance between movement, but not having like too much movement, so it looks like you're running across the stage. It's definitely a balance.
It's a balance of being extra, but not taking away from anything, I guess. Because yeah, big movements are very important. Another thing with like, I always tell people makeup has to be much bigger on stage. Like that light is going to wash out your face so hard that if you need to have very dramatic makeup, do it because you are going to need it. I feel like we could go on forever about this topic. We're coming up on our time though. If anybody has any questions or anything, pop them into the comments and we'll answer them. This is just like a very like, this is a topic we could probably talk about for hours. We run panels at conventions about this kind of thing. So it's a topic we're very familiar with. I'm just trying to think of any like last minute advice I'd give anybody who's starting out, getting into more of the intense style skits and stuff. But I think that's all I have.
I mean, I'd say just go for it, because like you've gotta start somewhere. And nowadays, dating myself, back in the day, like you didn't have a lot of these resources, and like even like 2017 and prior, it's harder to find actual recordings of conventions. We are very lucky, and in this like Pacific Northwest, Vancouver area, the soccer rangers do a lot of convention like videoing, and they will generally upload the cosplay contests, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and it honestly, it's super fun. Some of my best friends have been made in the green room, which is what we refer to backstage, green room. Some of my absolute best friends have come from like us just gushing in the back about anime or our characters or our skits, and it is such a fun experience, and it adds a whole new level of cosplay if you're interested in that kind of thing that you never really thought of. Like I have a couple of skits on the back burner that I've been writing and like trying to flesh out. They're a little bit bigger and I need more people, so it's something that takes time to build, but it's something I don't think I'll ever get bored of. Every year there's something new and exciting. It's always fun to be on stage, whether it's a walk-on and just kind of showing off the cosplay, or I'm writing a full dynamic skit to make people have feelings. Either way, it's just a really fun experience. And if you get stage fright, you're scared, like we all are. Just some of us are very good at carrying it, or we've been there long enough that we know how to look like we don't have stage fright. Because like I still backstage, I still get like heart flutters. I still have to do deep breaths. Like our buddy AC, like she just sings to herself. Like you can tell that she's nervous backstage because she'll just start singing her favorite songs. And I'm like, we've been doing this for a while and we still get the like butterfly jitters right before stage. Like that feeling usually never goes away. So you're not alone. Like it happens.
No, and also back on the topic of skit writing, it's perfectly fine to take inspiration from other skits. Like a lot of times I'll be like, oh, I like that. I want to incorporate that kind of feeling or that kind of movement into the skit. But please do not copy skits. Like
plagiarizing and inspiration are two different things. Like if somebody in this skit does a cool action that you're like, I like that action, like free game, but you can't use their script.
No, or like the same movements in succession that make it very obvious that there's been like, oh, this person watched this skit and obviously they've used it. Like with the World Cosplay Summit, that's actually a lot more common than you'd think, because those are high-level skits, and sometimes it can be hard to get something that's like extremely unique, but at that high caliber, it's usually quite obvious if you've taken something from a previous year and basically rehashed it. That was another team skit.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people don't really think about this, but if you really want to, you could take a scene from a show or a game and like reenact that. Like that's a very normalized skit. You'll see a lot of people take scenes and like redo them themselves as like their skit piece. And even at like World Cosplay Summit like level, we see some of these like original versus like recreate like reenactments. And that's a perfectly valid thing to do. Like some of my favorite skits are some like the house moving castle skits, because they're so pretty, and people usually just use like the music or scenes from them, but they're always super pretty. They just make my heart warm. So like that's totally something that also, if you just want to go on stage and play around with it, just you don't have to do your own audio. You can just take it out of the movie.
No, that's okay. There's a lot of copyright issues, and I actually have never seen a skit use audio from the show. So there was a really good House Moving Castle skit, a Hall Mat, and they used the dialogue from the dub, but they recorded it themselves because it was a copyright problem. And also, some conventions may not let you use copyrighted audio, songs, music, like
that's like the high level, usually, like the larger conventions.
Yeah, like ones that are being streamed online, because a lot of times they'll need to get the royalties for that, and sometimes they This
is why I have you with me, because you're good at the technical stuff. If you're at a fun convention that's like smaller, usually you don't have to, you can always message if you have questions, message your cosplay coordinator. That's their job. So yeah, if you're like, hey, I have this one idea. I was going to use some clips from this movie. Like, is that kosher? Just shoot them a message. Like, most of the time they can answer it within a couple of days, and then you'll know exactly what you can. And if you can't, then just record the lines yourself. Yeah, I think that was great. There was a lot of stuff to cover. But if you guys are interested in these kinds of topics and want to know more about choreography or cosplay competitions, that kind of stuff, we will totally come on and talk more. But maybe next time when I have caffeine. So I am tired. I have to go to bed. I have to be at work tomorrow. So
caffeine.
Oh, you're smart. I did not have caffeine. I'm like, I kind of want to sleep. And it's really, if I had caffeine now, I would literally be up until like 2 a.m. But anyways, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to do our quick little outros. And I don't actually know when the next episode is. I'm a terrible human. But go ahead and tell people where they can find you.
Various social media.
Yes.
I'm on Facebook under Sakura Elric Cosplay, Instagram under Sakura Elric. That's pretty much all I use. Discord. But yeah, I actually also work for a convention called the Pentacon that's coming up in like 23 days. Panics. And you can find them also on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Twitter, under the Penti-Con. But I'm their cosplay contest coordinator too. So yeah, I do things.
Yeah. I don't know. You can check out our Facebook, our website, and our YouTube if you would like to know what episodes are airing and when, because I'm probably going to mess it up because we're changing our times up. So if you're curious about our content, go check us out. We also have a Discord. You can always come join us. We have a lot of fun discussions on there about cosplay. You can share your cosplay. You can talk about your favorite anime. It's a very fun place to be, especially if you're looking for people to bounce ideas off of. And October is going to be very busy. Just a heads up to everybody, because in October, we let's see. I think the next episode should be on October 4th, and it's going to be attending cons in cosplay and advice to surviving your first con in cosplay. So that'll be on a Wednesday. That means it should be at 7 p.m. But yes, so October, me and Thermo and Sakura are all going to be over at Pentacon in Penticton, Canada. I am so freaking excited.
Penticton, BC, Canada. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so 3 of us are going to be there. So if you guys are going to be in the area, come check us out. Come say hi. We'll have booths. We'll have panels. It'll be super fun. And then the weekend afterwards, me and Thermo are going to be over in Uwu down in Arizona. So we're going to be busybodies. But I'm really excited about this. Again, if you see us at Uwu, come on over, say hi. We're going to be doing the cosplay lounge again there, so you'll see us around. But I think that is it. I think we can call it a night. And I hope everybody has good, sweet dreams. If you ever have any questions or comments or have an episode idea, shoot us a message on any social media. So thank you,
Thanks so much
everybody.
for watching tonight. Have a good one.